What is up, guys? Cubic here, back with another episode of the Ultimate Vital Guide that I'm creating. This is the second section in the series. Today we're going over the filter section, really important section in crafting your sounds. In terms of the comparison to Serum and Phase Plant, I will say that this is probably the one downside compared to Serum, whereas Vital does not have as many creative filter types as Serum does, which is probably something Serum leads the whole industry in my opinion. But Vital does have some really cool features that they've added to the filters that Serum does not have, and they also do have some phenomenal filters. So we're going to break all of that down for you today, get you a great understanding of this new synth and how to apply it to your workflow. So let's get into it.
Hello, please excuse the interruption.
So we're back with the initialize preset, and we're going to go ahead and get into the nitty gritty of the filter section. So we have these two filters down here, but we also have a filter available to us in the effects chain, which pretty much has the same functionality outside of the routing abilities, which I'll be going over in just a second. So we're not going to break this down, because as long as you understand these, you'll be able to understand this. So moving forward, we've got filter 1 and filter 2. We've got the option to route the filters to the oscillators. So if for some reason you forgot to do that in the routing options available in the oscillators, you can just click which oscillators you'd like the filter to be routed through. And just like that, they go straight into that filter. Now, both of these filters operate individually parallel. So if I send oscillator 2 to filter 1 and oscillator 1 to filter 2, you're not going to hear oscillator 2 bleeding from filter 1 into filter 2. They'll be completely individually affected. But if I would like to have filter 1 go into filter 2, so I have these three oscillators going into filter 1. If I would like them to also go into filter 2 before going into the effects chain, then I click filter 1. And now you can hear it's being sent through this high cut and going into the second filter as well. Now I can also do the opposite, where I can have filter 2 go into filter 1. That seems a little weirder to me, but if you want to do that, you have that ability. Now we also have the ability to route the filters to the sampler, which comes in handy as well. And then going into these three knobs, we've got the mix knob, so dry wet for your filter. We've got a drive knob if you'd like some more RMS from your sound. It's basically cranking that volume up, adding some more grit and fullness to your sound. Then we also have the ability to key track the filters, which really comes in handy. So if you pull it all the way up, then it's 100% key track. So basically the cutoff is mapped to the notes that you press. So as you go higher in the scale, you can see that the cutoff opens up higher and higher. Now, there is also this unique ability to turn the key track negatively. So as you go further down the scale, it opens up. So you can basically have the opposite effect, which can come in handy if you're playing lower notes, and as you play lower notes, you want more harmonics to be let through, because lower notes have less harmonics to begin with. Now that we've got the knobs and the routing down, let's go through the different options to actually customize the individual filters. So up here, we've got the blend mode. So as you'll see on a lot of these basic filters right here, they've got basic low pass, high pass filters. Instead of having individual low pass and individual high pass filters, they have the option to just blend it between the two. So that's a high pass filter, that's a low pass filter, or you can have it kind of in between. It's more of a band pass. Then down here you have the cutoff, which basically places the filter on whatever part of the frequency spectrum you would like. So if it's like a low pass filter, then that's basically how many high frequencies do you want to let through. And if it's a high pass, how many low frequencies do you want to cut out? Then we have the ability to change the resonance of the filter right here. So if it's a low or high pass, basically the peak, it'll add a lot of resonance to it. Now you just want to be careful with that because you can really make some ear-piercing sounds if you have the resonance up too high in certain situations. But something really cool with the resonance is, since we have key tracking, you can make a really resonant peak. And if you look into what hertz are equal to which notes on your keyboard, you can actually create more tonality by turning the key tracking all the way up or to wherever your desired preference is, and then putting the resonant peak up, and it'll follow whatever notes you press and therefore keep it in tune. So that's really cool. Now we're going to break down the individual filters. So to start things off, we have pretty much the same setup with the analog, dirty, ladder, and digital. It basically starts off with a 12 decibel cut, whether it's a low cut or a high cut. Also a 24 decibel cut. So if you listen to the difference, the 12 decibel cut, basically it's a much looser slope of a cut, so it's going to let through more harmonics. But now if you put it to a 24 decibel, it's much tighter, meaning it's not letting as many harmonics through, and so that's just going to give you a more precise cut. Then we'll get into the notch blend, and like I said again, these 5 options all apply to the analog, dirty, ladder, and digital. And basically the difference between the analog, dirty, ladder, and digital, those are just different types of classic filters. They all have their own little tones, different amounts of warmth and grit to them. I'll go through them all so you can kind of hear the subtle differences, but first I'm going to go through what all these mean. So then there's a notch blend filter, which is essentially still a high pass, low pass filter, but when you blend it, when you change the filter blend, it basically creates a notch in the middle. So you can use this for different sorts of phasing, and a very good use for it would be neurobasses. Because of that notch right there, it sort of makes this phasing tone, rather than if we go to just this, you'll see when you blend it, there's no notch in the middle. Then we've got a notch spread filter, which basically it just blends it between just a normal notch filter into a bandpass filter, which when you put it in between, just more phasing issues. You turn the resonance up, so you can get some really cool sounds using that filter. And then finally we have a bandpass peak notch filter, which is just a multi-filter, and so you use mode to change between bandpass, a peak, or a notch. And so again, all these filters, especially these last 3, since they have these cool blending modes, definitely experiment with incorporating them into their sounds to create more vocal and like phasey, just cool new movements in your sounds beyond just a low pass and a high pass. And especially with the ability to combine them and send the filters through each other, that just gives you so many more options. And then on top of that, you have a third filter in the effects. So you have so many different options to filter your sounds and create movement and unique new tonalities in your sound. So it's really cool. Filtering is important. We're going to go through real quick just how the analog, dirty, ladder, and digital sound compared to each other. So let me turn up the drive. So that's analog, that's dirty. So analog is going to be a softer, more analog. I mean, it's going to mimic more sounds from analog synthesizers that you hear from the 80s and 90s and even before that. Dirty, on the other hand, is more gritty and loud. The drive knob is probably going to apply even more drive in a more dramatic effect for the dirty filter. Ladder filter is another type of analog filter, but as you can hear, it has this kind of more resonant tonality. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, but you can tell the difference. And then digital, I think, is a more modern type of filtering. And that's kind of gotten a more robotic tone to it. Then we're going to get into the diode filter, which kind of has its own distortion incorporated into the filter. If you're familiar with diode distortion, it's going to give you similar types of grit. And also the low shelf just kind of turns into this very subtle band pass, which you can increase the resonance to give it more of a spread somewhat. But yeah, the low shelf is not too different from the low cut, which is just the low shelf, but there's a cut at the end, which you can use to completely high pass all the lows if you'd like, or keep it subtle like this. Then we move into the formant filters, which, if you're not familiar with formant filters, basically it adds a kind of human vocal tonality to your sounds, a similar tonality or similar type of filtering that we get when we talk, that our lips give us. So this is the AOIE, so so even if you just listen to me going through it, you can kind of hear the A's, the O's, the I's, the E's. That's just kind of the tonality that it will give you. So these three knobs are a bit different when it comes to the formant filter compared to the other filters. So this top knob is more of the cutoff for this type of filter, whereas these two knobs control the formant peaks, which kind of change the tonality of the formant and kind of help make it talk. So by listening to that, you can kind of hear that that's a cool way to make yoys and just more vocal talking basses and such. Then we've also got an AIUO format, which is just different options for the tonality and the types of vocal formants that it can create. So moving on, we've got the highly popular comb filter. We've got a low-high comb, a low-high flange plus, a low-high flange minus, a band spread comb, a band spread flange plus, and a band spread flange minus. Now, basically, these are just different types of comb filtering with the resonant peaks being in different positions. I do not quite understand the complete science behind comb filters. Basically, I know it's a lot of flangering and phasing with a lot of feedback. You'll notice that you use the resonant peaks to kind of control the amount of feedback. But as you can hear, they give your sounds a really metallic-y feel. This controls where the cutoff happens, so either the highs or the lows, which sometimes you'll really want to control that because a comb filter can give you these really boomy, kind of muddy low end. And these are super, super helpful when you have the key tracking. You can make some really cool effects. And then you also have the cutoff. And so I'm just going to go through the different modes just so you can hear the difference. I mean, isn't that amazing how we just have a simple saw wave and just using a comb filter with key tracking? Like, that's such a prominent, full, like pretty much usable right out of the gate sound right there. So this is flange minus. So as you can hear, it kind of takes away a lot of the harmonics. It's a thinner sound, but it's still metallic. Then we got the band spread comb. And then band spread flange plus and minus. So if you can really hear, the difference between these flange plus and flange minus is really feels like it's just a lot of the harmonic content is being added or taken away. And then we've got the final filter, which is a phaser. So we've got a positive phaser and we've got a negative phaser. As you can see, the difference is the positive phaser, it kind of adds some harmonics and tonality to the low end and the high end, whereas the negative appears to be kind of taking it away. So with here, you kind of change the blend of the resonant peaks up here, and then you can either make the resonators kind of push up or push down. So negative is more of a subtle phasing, whereas positive is just a bit more of a dramatic sorts of peaks and phasing. So yeah, those are the filters. I hope this was a good rundown for you, really helped you understand the filter section and the filters available to you and how you might be able to use them while you're crafting your sounds a little bit better. Again, let me know down below in the comments if this video helped you, if it was informative enough, if there's anything I need to work on. I've never made a guide like this. I'm not the most technical producer, but I am knowledgeable. I've had this synth luckily for quite a few months, been able to learn and understand it, and so I hope that I'm explaining things in a way that's understandable, especially to more beginner and less technical producers. And so yeah, leave a like if this video really helped you out, and subscribe if you'd like more content like this, and stay tuned for more videos from this ultimate guide of Vital, teaching you every single feature and every single section available to you in the Vital synthesizer. So yeah, with that being said, go out there, experiment with the filters, add some cool movement and tonalities to your sounds, and let me know what more you'd like to see from me in the comments. And yeah, have a great day and happy sound designing.